You've said it 1,000 times. Cheers. Glass up, clink, sip. You didn't decide to do that. Your parents did it. Their parents did it. Somebody at some point was the first human to lift a cup and say a word before drinking it. And we have no idea who that was. Echo has been staring at humans doing this for what Echo calls way too long. Every bar, every wedding, every awkward work dinner where your boss makes a speech and everyone dies inside. You clink, you say the word, you drink. Nobody explains it, nobody questions it. So today we're figuring out who started this, why it stuck, and why the answer is genuinely unknowable. Buckle up, here's the early answer. The English word cheers as a drinking toast is surprisingly young, like early 1900s young. British English, roughly. Before 1919, nobody was really clinking a pint and shouting cheers. They were saying your health, good health, or wassail. Yeah, wassail. That's Old English weshale, meaning be healthy. Vikings, basically. Old Norse vesshel got imported by Anglo-Danes, sat inside English for 1,000 years, then became the drink you sing about in Christmas carols. Actual wassail was a hot-spiced ale served from a shared bowl, passed around like a communal hug. But the ritual behind the word and lifting a drink, saying something, then drinking, that's way older. Thousands of years older. Which means the word cheers is a costume. The ritual underneath is ancient. Here's the weird part. Ancient Greeks did it. They called it a symposium, which sounds fancy but was mostly rich guys drinking watered wine and arguing about ideas. Actually watered, 3 parts water. To 1 part wine was standard. Drinking it straight was for barbarians. Before they drank, they poured a little out for the gods. A libation. You've seen this in movies. Somebody splashes wine on the ground. That's it. Yeah, that's the move. Except at a symposium, they do it 3 times. 1 for the Olympian gods, 1 for the heroes, 1 for Zeus the savior. Serious business dressed up as a party. The Romans copied the ritual. They borrowed a Greek toast, pi zizis, drink that you may live, and stamped it on their gold glass cups. Actual archaeological cups exist with that phrase engraved. The word prosit, Latin for may it be beneficial, came later in medieval Europe. German university students turned it into a toast in the 1500s. Same idea, different togas. Now here's where it gets stupid. You've probably heard the poison story. The one where people clinked glasses so hard the wine sloshed between cups, proving nobody was poisoning anybody. Your uncle told you this at Thanksgiving. Confidently. It's not true. Historians can't find a single medieval source that says this. No poisoning manual, no etiquette guide, nothing. The story appears in exactly 0 primary sources before roughly the 20th century, when people started confidently telling it at parties. It's folk etymology, which is a polite way of saying somebody made it up and it sounded cool so it stuck. Sorry, Uncle Greg. So why do we actually clink? One theory, the clink was the missing sense. You see the wine, you smell the wine, you taste the wine, you feel the cup. That's 4 senses. The clink adds sound. Drinking becomes a full-body event. 5 for 5. Is this proven? No, it's a vibe theory. But it's the least dumb one on the table. Another theory? The clink is a leftover from religious offering. Ancient toasts weren't for you. They were for gods, ancestors, the dead. You lifted the cup up, said the name, then drank. The clink might be a shrunken version of that, a tiny bell to get the attention of something invisible. That's a lot to think about at happy hours, and some cultures went further. In Germany, you have to make eye contact when you clink. If you don't, folklore says 7 years of bad luck in a specific department that this script cannot mention. Use your imagination, look up, not down, and don't smirk. In Georgia, the country, not the state, they have professional toasters, called a tamada. This guy runs the dinner. He gives 20 toasts. He has an order, first to God, then to peace, then to ancestors, then to the reason you're all here, and eventually to whoever's been quiet too long. A supra, the Georgian feast, can run 12 hours. Everybody drinks 20 times. That's not a party, that's a job. Here's the catch. Every culture toasts differently, but every culture toasts. Japan says kanpai. China says ganbei. Spain says salud. Sweden says skål. Ireland says slante. Russia says za zdorovie. Different words, same move. Lift, say, drink. That's suspicious. That's the kind of thing that suggests the ritual is older than any of these languages. older than the concept of a country. So who was first? This is where Echo starts pacing. Because the honest answer is you cannot find them. Toasting predates writing. The first person to lift a drink and say a word before drinking it did that thousands of years before anybody could write, "Guy lifted drink," said word. They died. Nobody recorded them. The oldest evidence of fermented drinks, from a site called Jiahu in China, goes back 9,000 years. The oldest brewing recipe we have is a Sumerian hymn to a goddess named Ninkasi, and it reads like a passive-aggressive cookbook. The ritual outlived the human by like 8,000 years. That's the twist. You're doing a thing invented by someone whose name was never known to anyone, ever. And here's the part that's genuinely weird. You didn't learn to toast from a book. Nobody sat you down. You just watched adults do it and copied them. Which means the ritual has been transmitted human to human, mouth to cup, for maybe 10,000 years without a single instruction manual. You are a link in that chain. The next time you clink a glass at a wedding, you're doing something a Sumerian farmer probably did in 3000 BC. Same move, different cup. Don't think about that too hard. Echo's verdict. The first person to say cheers is unknowable, and that's the point. The ritual is older than the word. The word is younger than the ritual. And the reason we do it is a stack of theories nobody can prove. You've been part of a 10,000-year game of Copycat, and you didn't know until now. Now you know. Sorry. Drop your country's toast word in the comments. Echo's making a spreadsheet.